Create is by far one of the absolute best mods that Minecraft has ever had because you can do an absolute ton of stuff with it, and there are an absolute insane amount of add-ons for it as well, which just goes to show how much people absolutely love this mod, myself included. And I've actually learned quite a bit of stuff over the few years that I've played the Create mod, and one of the things that I've discovered is that you can actually use mods that are not made for Create in order to make Create a whole lot easier. And today, I want to showcase two mods specifically that actually make Create a lot easier. And again, these are not made for Create, but I have discovered that they make it a ton, and I do mean a ton easier. So let's go ahead and discuss what these mods actually are. Now, I am going to be discussing these individually, and I cannot stress that enough that these are not Create mods at all. These are not even add-ons for Create. These are not add-ons for Create. I'm not going to go any further in that list, but you guys get my point. These are not Create related in the slightest, but they are super, super handy for this. And we're going to start over here. We're going to be working our way down the line here. And this right here is the sink for cooking for blockheads. Now, if you're familiar with making mod packs, then you're probably familiar with adding a bunch of food mods, or maybe a few food mods. One in particular is, of course, a Farmer's Delight. And cooking for blockheads actually makes this cooking process a lot easier. But for the sake of this video, we're focused on the sink from Cooking for Blockheads. This is the recipe, by the way, so it's not very expensive. And I'm also going to go ahead and grab all these blocks right now. And the way this works is that this block on its own is an infinite water source. I am not joking. This thing can provide you an infinite amount of water without the need of having to set up an infinite source yourself. It is that powerful. I am not even joking. So I'm going to set this up real quick. So if I set this up, I might have to do this. And I did not grab a wrench ahead of time because apparently I forgot that. But if I set this like this, do that. And I set this creative cogwheel from Create Encased. And I'm going to set this to 256. And look at this go. It is already at 17, 18, 20 blocks or 20 buckets of water instantly from just this single block right here. It is an insane amount of water that you are getting from this instantly from all of that crafting. I mean, it's not expensive, but look at this. You don't have to do anything. You won't have to worry about if your water source is going to run out. You're not going to have to worry about it freezing in like another dimension or evaporating or whatever. It is that simple. And the other thing is that you can actually dye this just by right-clicking it with a dye. I'm going to just go ahead and get some blue dye real quick just to go ahead and showcase this. But yeah, you do that. And it's actually pretty simple, pretty customizable, pretty easy. But yeah, that is the sink from Cooking for Blockheads. And I realize that you're probably not going to want to install just a basic cooking block or Create specifically. You're probably going to be using a mod pack, but you can go ahead and research that yourself if you really want to. But that's besides the point. But yeah, the sink from Cooking for Blockheads, that is an insane block for this. And we're going to go straight into the next block on our list, and that is the fluid pipe. This is the recipe. You get 16 of these, and you're also going to need a pipe wrench. I have not tested if the regular Create wrench will work, but the pipe wrench itself, incredibly cheap. I don't need all these, but that's besides the point. So here's how this works. This is incredibly simple, and there are actually a few different pipes that you can use for this, like for an example, iron pipe, energy pipe, things like that. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that, but just simply right click it with a wrench, and okay, you have to shift right click. Okay, I wasn't sure about that, But yeah, as you can tell, it's not as fast as what we were doing over there. Granted, that was at 256, but it works like absolute genius. I know that's a weird way to word it, but that's besides the point. But it is working absolutely perfectly. I'm not sure why it had decided to save the world right now, but yeah, look at that. That is absolute insanity that is working that well. So you can have the entire steam setup, the water setup for a steam engine condensed to 2 blocks. That is absolutely insane to me. So that is why I would recommend PIPEZ. Now, I am going to showcase one more, and this is because this is the one that I personally use quite a bit, and I realize that there are going to be people who are not going to want to use this because of a lot of different reasons. But I actually have the stuff for mechanism in here, and there's a reason why I didn't actually showcase the recipes in here, because it actually uses steel, which requires its own separate process, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if you know the mechanism, you know what I'm doing. You've got 4 different types, and you can actually upgrade them with alloys, which that's actually what I'm going to do for this video. And again, this is not going to be for absolutely everyone who uses mods like this, but if I place this here, and this one actually is a little bit different. I just had my voice cracked. That's beside the point. You can actually set this to be a push or a pull, and it does exactly what you expect it to do. If I start upgrading these with the alloys, look at that. It just took like a second and a half on the highest tier pipe, and it was done instantly. So I'm actually going to go ahead and grab the ultimate pipe, and I can actually have that pull out instantly as well. Look at that. That's gone. That is just instantly gone. And I can do the same thing in the opposite direction. That is just absolutely insane. And again, mechanism is not for people who are not super keen on doing like super high-tech mods. It is very tech-oriented. You're probably going to have to set up very specific factories for it, which I realize is kind of the point of Create, but that's beside the point. Mechanism is not a beginner's mod. I mean, you could probably try if you really wanted to, but yeah, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. And this thing didn't even struggle. The pipe itself didn't even struggle. But yeah, that is the 2 mods that I think are highly recommended, well, at least in my opinion, highly recommended for Create. You have Cooking for Blockheads and PIPEZ, and yeah, if you want to get into it, you can do Mechanism, but that's a little bit more complicated because that does a ton more than just the pipes itself, but that's all I have for the sake of this video. So yeah, again, Cooking for Blockheads and PIPEZ, super overpowered for Create, but regardless, this is where I'm going to end this video off. So, hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure that like button. If you want more, then make sure that subscribe for future content. But yeah, with that, I will see you guys later.